Classmates, it's time for class. We know that a rich page is usually composed of many basic components. How can we arrange these components in an orderly manner on the page? This requires the use of container components. Container components are a special type of component that can contain other components and lay them out according to certain rules, helping developers generate beautiful pages. In addition to placing basic components, container components can also contain other containers. By using multi-level nested layouts, we can create more richly designed pages. Today, we will learn about container components. Some common container components include the view component, scroll view component, and swiper component. The view component is similar to a regular viewing area, akin to the div element in HTML. It is a block-level element, commonly used to achieve layout effects on a page. The scroll view component refers to a scrollable view area, often used to create scrolling lists. The swiper component is primarily a container component for carousel images. For the swiper component, it also corresponds to a swiper item component, which represents each item inside the carousel. Next, we will start by learning about the view component. First, let's take a look at the view component. Similar to the HTML div tag, it is used to wrap various element components. Another is view, which is used for app. When using view, note that text should be wrapped in the text component. The view component and the HTML div tag have certain differences. The style and event effects of a div are implemented using CSS styles and JavaScript code, while the view component supports CSS styles and its own event effect properties. Let's look at some of its common attributes. The first attribute is hover class, which is a string used to specify the style class when the component is pressed. What does this mean? When we click the view component, it adopts a certain style. There is also the hover stop propagation attribute, which specifies whether to prevent the appearance of the click state on ancestor nodes. The hover start time attribute specifies how long it takes for the click state to appear after pressing the component. The time unit is milliseconds. The hover state time attribute refers to the duration for which the click state is retained after releasing the component. The unit is also milliseconds. Now let's take a look at an example. This is the view component, and there is another view component on its outermost layer. This is a requirement of the single file component specification. This is the parent box style, which defines both the width and height as 400 rpx. The background color is gray. Then, the box style defines a width and height of 200 rpx with a green background color, centered text, and a font size of 28 rpx. There is also a box active style, used for the appearance of the view component after being clicked. Remember, this style changes the background color to blue. Let's take a look. When we click on this outer view component, it applies the parent box style when it is not clicked. You can see that when it is clicked, it turns blue and applies the box active style. When we press down on the view component, the hover class attribute takes effect, and the view component will apply the box active style. How long it takes to apply the box active style after pressing down? 0.5 seconds. It maintains the box active style for 1600 milliseconds after releasing. Did you notice any change in the inner view component? No. Only the style of the outer view component changed. Now, we click the inner view component, and only the inner view component turns blue, while the outer view component remains unaffected. The inner one currently does not affect the outer one. This is the view component we talked about today. Attention, everyone. In fact, we can also use the div tag, but it is rarely used. When using the div tag, it is directly converted to a view component during compilation. The hover stop propagation attribute is similar to preventing event bubbling. When it is set to true, clicking on the view component inside the box will not affect the style of the outer view component. In other words, when this property is set to true, the click on the inner view does not affect the outer view. The current hover stop propagation property is set to true, which means the inner layer does not affect the outer layer. If we set this property to false, and then click on the inner layer view, it affects the style of the outer layer view, meaning that the click event from the inner layer is passed to the outer layer. If the hover stop propagation property is true, it will prevent the click event from being passed to the outer layer. This is the final effect. Classmates, the content above pertains to knowledge about view components. In developing many programs, the view component is the most frequently used component. I hope everyone can study it carefully. That's all for this class. Thank you, everyone.